and welcome to a brief outline of uses and gratifications research with me, Ryan Brown,
and me, Kim Ashman.
The most important things to remember are that
the audience are active.
The audience participates and utilises the media.
The audience is gratified in some way.
The audience seeks out the media.
The audience has some control over content.
This is contrary to the Frankfurt School's theory of hypodermic needle.
The audience uses media in order to gratify or fulfill a social or psychological need.
The first research into uses and gratifications was in 1940s America, then was continued into the 1970s in the UK and the USA.
Uses and gratification looks at the role of the audience in the construction of meaning.
Harold Laswell began the research into social functions of the media in 1948.
He initially began his foray into functionalism.
His three social functions were
surveillance of the environment, which is the source of information on the world and society around us, actively sought out by the audience.
Correlation of the parts of society in responding to the environment.
Use of the media to gain consensus of views regarding the current environment.
The transmission of the social heritage from one generation to the next.
Transmitting certain values and beliefs based on audience and their beliefs, i.e. common thoughts about the Britons' love to queue and patriotism.
In 1975, Charles Wright added three more social functions, and these were
surveying the political environment.
2. Correlating response of whole state.
And the third, transmitting responses from old to young.
Dennis McQuail rocked up onto the scene in 1975 with his own 4 social functions based on my man Laswell, 48, and his homie Wright from 1975.
These 4 functions were
personal identity.
This is used to define who people are. They look to the media for trends and fashions.
Personal relationships.
They learn how to act. They learn templates for real-life encounters, and they use songs as a means of expression.
Surveillance.
Satisfying a need for knowledge. It's an insight.
And
guidance into the surrounding environment.
And finally, diversion.
Which is a means of escape. People watch soaps so they don't realise how shit their own lives are because they think that everything could be worse.
There are many different interpretations of some texts.
McQuail believed the media doesn't control the audience.
The audience plays a role in the construction of meaning.
However, there are several criticisms of uses and gratifications theory. Did you know that, Ryan Brown?
I wasn't aware.
Have you heard?
I thought everybody was under the understanding. I thought everyone had heard.
Heard what? About the word?
What's the bird?
Bird
is the
criticism. David Morley criticised the uses and gratifications research. He quoted Eliot in 1973 saying, "Television consumption is more a matter of availability than of selection."
Also, the audience is already familiar with genres and more likely to choose those they know.
Quotes. "We must get away from the habit of thinking in terms of what the media do to people and substitute for it the idea of what people do for the media." Morley quoting Halloran in 1992.
And this is a brief summary of that.
Yes,
People may use the media differently from how the communicator intended it. Audiences play a role in the construction of meaning.
Audience approach text out of a purposeful desire to satisfy or gratify necessary personal and social needs. Long et al. 2009.
I'm just going to go on to talk about functionality here. He also quoted that the uses and gratifications approach is limited because it lacks attentions to social and cultural perspectives that might have some bearing on and conditioning of all of those categories explored.
Who was that?
That was Long et al.
2009?
2009.
That's interesting because David Morley in 1992, who is the helpful little fish, just there, he said, "One cannot approach the problem of the effects of the media on the audience, as if its contents directly impact passive minds. People, in fact, assimilate, select and reject communications from the media. For example, we've just had some negative connotation just in infiltrating the newsroom there, and we were able to reject that. We didn't assimilate that, we rejected it because we were using the media to gratify ourselves, and we didn't want to use that. So we didn't gratify ourselves.
We didn't gratify.
Or we will gratify ourselves later.
Yes, we will.
So, ultimately, what we need to take away from this is Doctor is. Doctor is.
Doctor is.
Doctor is. D-R-I-S. This should remind you of Dennis McQuail. Do you know an impression of Dennis McQuail?
I'm Dennis McQuail.
That's Dennis McQuail. Dennis McQuail said,
Doctor is.
diversion, personal relationships, personal identity, surveillance. Dr. McQuail. What year was Dr. McQuail? Can you remember?
I can't remember. Can you remember?
I can remember because I'm not an idiot. 1987, Dr. McQuail. Dr. McQuail? No. Dennis McQuail. Don't get that wrong.
That's all we've got time for today, folks. Au revoir.